Alright guys, the moment has finally came. It's now the 40th anniversary of the entire Star Wars series. I already did a couple videos about Star Wars back in February, and I gotta admit, I really missed out on these movies as a kid. I mean, I only played a couple games, and I've seen trailers and commercials of the prequels, but I never got to watch all the movies, including the original movies. And plus, since that the original Star Wars A New Hope is the one that started it all, it's not chronologically the first movie, because we all know the infamous Phantom Menace is the first one that chronologically started the Star Wars main series, while the first movie, A New Hope, is the one that started it all. And if you're wondering why I have two VHS tapes, is because one of them is the original non-special edition, and the other one's clearly the special edition. Now, the first movie is so classic. I mean, the lines are great, the characters are easy to recognize. Everything that you see in this movie is just so simple, you gotta remember them. And plus, George Lucas himself combined so many classic movies as well as other genres, combined them all into one bigger movie. And that's what he did. It was supposed to be like a movie adaptation of the Flash Gordon series, you know, the movie serials that play at the theaters before they start all the other movies back in the 30s and 40s. But then he combined other movies, particularly Western films and Japanese films and a lot of other classics like Metropolis and Wizard of Oz. So many classic movies combined into another classic, that is Star Wars A New Hope. So, let's start off the review, let's explain it, then don't worry, if you don't want to watch this video for the spoilers, just skip to the end. Alright, here, let's go, let's begin. It starts off with some giant ship attacking another ship that supposedly has the rebels, and that was, of course, including C-3PO and R2-D2. And next thing you know, a bunch of stormtroopers want to find out the plans for the Death Star that was already constructed. It was already finished, but was it prepared to destroy a planet yet? Who knows? And then, next thing you know, Princess Leia gave the plans to R2-D2 while Darth Vader wants to find out more and more about where the Death Star plans are, so they had to track down the droids. So next thing you know, the droids had to end up on Tatooine, and they end up being kidnapped by Jawas until Luke and his Uncle Owen came out to get both C-3PO and R2-D2. So next thing you know, they ended up finding out the droids, and next thing you know, they even see the little holographic message of Princess Leia, played by Carrie Fisher, talking to Obi-Wan Kenobi, played by the late Alec Guinness. And Luke is played by Mark Hamill. All the actors do decent jobs, but at the same time, they do have some kind of awkward, yet also cheesy tone, and that's what makes this movie so memorable. At least the acting in these movies, the original trilogy, got better, and they're still more tolerable than the prequels, which we'll talk about some other video. So then, next thing you know, the droids end up finding Obi-Wan Kenobi, and next thing you know, Luke gets involved as well, so they meet him, and next thing you know, Obi-Wan ends up finding out that he's a Jedi, and he was also known as Old Ben Kenobi whenever he was given baby Luke to his uncle and aunt, basically. And since that, you know, they find out more about what the Empire's really up to with the droids, his uncle and aunt are killed by the stormtroopers. So it's up to Obi-Wan and Luke to end up going to Alderaan, so they have to stop by at Mos Eisley real quickly to find a pilot, which is Han Solo, played by the classic famous actor Harrison Ford. They end up meeting each other at the bar, they met Chewbacca. Well, actually it was Obi-Wan that met Chewbacca and Han, while Luke was just seeing them silently. And then next thing you know, we meet Greedo, and of course we all know what happens in the special edition. He shoots first, but in the original, he doesn't shoot first, because in the original, there's no CG characters, no annoying things distracting you from the main characters, you know. That's why I prefer this movie right here, the one on the left, that is, and then the special edition clearly has so many CG because George Lucas wants to add more stuff. Sure, films are never finished, but still, you just gotta do what's right by adding the originals again as well, just to make the fans happy. Anyway, back to the script. They introduce, you know, Luke and Obi-Wan to the Millennium Falcon, and that, of course, lets them go into space. And the next thing you know, stormtroopers try to track them down until they went to hyperspace, until they realized, while General Moff Tarkin ends up commanding the people at the Death Star to blow up Alderaan, Leia was upset because she didn't want to tell them where the rebels were. So then, boom, the planet exploded, and at the same time, Luke and the others ended up showing up to Alderaan until, boom, it was already an entire asteroid field, and next thing you know, they get sucked into the Death Star, and then this is where all the fun begins, where they're disguised as stormtroopers, while Obi-Wan ends up tracking down Darth Vader, who used to be Anakin Skywalker, spoiler alert, while the droids stay at the main hangar, basically, just to track them down by a microphone. So they end up saving the princess as well. So they also save the princess. Which may sound a little cliche, but at the same time more adventurous because there's so many stormtroopers that are trying to hunt them down. So they end up finding Leia, but then next thing you know, they're trapped in a garbage chute until the droids end up saving them. And then next thing you know, they continuously go on a pursuit to chase down, the stormtroopers end up chasing them down, and next thing you know, the lightsaber duel between Obi-Wan Kenobi, or Old Ben, versus Darth Vader. And this is the first lightsaber duel. Yeah, it can be a little clunky, but it still progresses the story a little further. And then next thing you know, Obi-Wan turns into dust. He dies, but he doesn't get killed. He just disappears into thin air. And he disappears, that's all. And then Luke gets disappointed, they end up back in the ship, Leia's saved, and next thing you know, they have a little plan by destroying the Death Star, of course, thanks to R2-D2's Death Star plan stuck in his thing, inside his droid innards, whatever. So this is where the cockfight finally begins between Han and Luke destroying a few of the other, TIE fighters that are defeating them, and that's right before the final battle begins, where all of the pilots, the rebels, end up trying to find out how to destroy the Death Star, and we all knew that all of Luke's fellow rebels get killed until he ends up destroying it with the Force, and Darth Vader ends up trying to kill him as well, because this is where the classic line, "The Force is strong," with this one ends up starting up. So next thing you know, Darth Vader tries to kill Luke until suddenly Han shows up out of nowhere with his Millennium Falcon, killing all the other TIE fighters that were protecting Darth Vader, and the Death Star explodes. We all live happily ever after, for now. Luke and Han get their rewards, except for Chewie, disappointingly. Chewbacca doesn't get his medal. But at the same time, the rebels have succeeded their first mission, but the Empire will not give up, because the story is not over yet, because Star Wars had 2 sequels. Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, and Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. We'll talk about those movies sometime later in June, but yeah. Star Wars was such a really good story. It was a really good mythological space movie that was just so classic. I don't understand why I never saw this movie as a kid, but really, this movie just hung on me so well. And you just gotta love the characters and the mythology and all those things that you see, the spaceships, the sound effects, everything in this movie is just classic. I mean, it spawned so many video games, a lot of toys, and so many other stuff, including a really bad Christmas special later the following year, and George Lucas himself hated it, but he prefers Jar Jar and Howard the Duck over the holiday special. But yeah, Episode 4, the New Hope, is just really good. It was so classic, it was so fun to watch. Overall, I recommend you non-Star Wars people just watch the first one just to find out why this movie's so classic and how it just spawned an entire franchise that everyone in the world go crazy for. It spawned the prequels, it spawned the sequel trilogy, it spawned more video games than ever, many classic other characters to make later on, and you just gotta love the characters themselves, lightsabers, the Force, and everything else related to Star Wars, because this movie is just so classic. Happy 40th anniversary to Star Wars, and rest in peace, Carrie Fisher, and let's not forget about to all you Star Wars geeks out there, I will do more reviews of the other movies so soon, so I hope you all enjoyed the next few videos, so peace out, rock on, have a nice day, may the Force be with you always.